Have you ever felt that God is slowly removing people from your life? Not through fights, not through betrayal, just distance. Calls become shorter, visits become rare, conversations become quiet, and one night, sitting alone, you whisper, God, why does my life feel so empty? Loneliness can feel like rejection. It can feel like you have been forgotten. But sometimes, God is not taking people away from you. Sometimes, He is clearing space for something your heart is not yet ready to understand. This is the story of a man named Elias, and how his loneliest years became the most meaningful part of his life. Please stay with this story until the end, because you may begin to see your own silent season differently. Elias lived in a small town near a river that flowed quietly between old stone bridges and tall trees. He was known as a cheerful man, the kind who greeted everyone, the kind who helped without being asked. His house was always full. Friends came for tea, neighbors came for advice, children came to play in his yard. His wife, Miriam, filled the home with laughter. His daughter, Layla, filled it with questions and dreams. Elias often thanked God for giving him a life so rich in company and love. He believed a full house meant a full life. He did not yet know that God sometimes teaches fullness through emptiness. One autumn, Miriam fell ill. At first it seemed small, then it became serious. Elias spent long nights beside her bed, whispering prayers into the darkness. God, please heal her. But one cold morning, the house became quiet in a way it never had before. Miriam passed away. The laughter left the walls. The kitchen felt too large. The evenings stretched endlessly. Elias sat alone at the table where 4 chairs once felt barely enough. For the first time, he felt the weight of silence. He asked God, "Why would you take the heart of my home?" But there was no answer, only stillness. Months passed. Layla grew older and left for university in a distant city. She promised to call often. She did at first, but life became busy. Calls became weekly, then monthly. Elias would stare at his phone after each short conversation, wishing for a little more time, a little more voice. Friends stopped visiting as often. People assumed he needed space. Slowly, without any conflict, his crowded life became an empty one. And one evening, sitting by the window as the sun disappeared behind the river, Elias whispered, "God, why am I alone now?" Days became routines of quiet. He woke up, made tea for one, walked by the river, returned to a silent home. At first, the loneliness felt unbearable. It pressed on his chest. It made nights heavy and mornings meaningless. But one morning, while walking near the river, he saw an old bench covered in dust and leaves. It looked forgotten. Without thinking much, Elias cleaned it. The next day, he sat there. The day after, he brought an extra piece of bread and left it on the bench. A homeless man took it. They did not speak. They just nodded at each other. Something small shifted inside Elias that day. He began bringing more bread, then tea in a small thermos. Soon, the man spoke. His name was Kareem. He had lost his job, his home, and his family's respect. Elias listened. He did not give advice. He did not preach. He only listened. And for the first time in months, Elias returned home feeling lighter. Days turned into weeks. Other lonely people began sitting on that bench. An old widow, a quiet teenager, a tired worker. They spoke. They shared. They listened. Without planning it, Elias had created a small place of comfort beside the river. And every night, before sleeping, he whispered to God, "Thank you for letting me be useful." He no longer asked, "Why am I alone?" One winter evening, Elias slipped on the icy road and injured his leg badly. He could not walk for weeks. He feared the worst. The bench will be empty now, he thought. But something unexpected happened. There was a knock on his door. Kareem stood there with groceries. The widow came with soup. The teenager came to clean the house. People Elias barely knew filled his home with care. Tears filled his eyes as he realized none of his kindness had disappeared. God had simply moved it into other hearts. Layla returned when she heard of the accident. She was shocked to see strangers caring for her father. "Who are these people?" she asked. Elias smiled softly. "They are the answer to a prayer I didn't know I was praying." Layla did not understand at first. To her, loneliness meant loss. But to her father, it had become preparation. When Elias healed, he could not walk far anymore. So people began coming to his house instead. They sat in his small living room. They drank tea. They shared their burdens. His quiet home became a place of peace for many. And one night, as Elias prayed, he finally understood God had not emptied his life. God had cleared it so he could fill it with purpose. Years later, when Elias passed away peacefully in his sleep, the small town gathered outside his house. Not because he was rich, not because he was famous, but because in his loneliest years, he had become a light for others. Layla stood there with tears in her eyes, realizing the truth her father had lived. Her father's emptiness had become many people's comfort. And this is the lesson. When God allows your life to become quiet, when people slowly drift away, when your days feel empty and your nights feel long, it may not be punishment. It may be preparation. God removes noise so you can hear hearts more clearly. He removes crowds so you can see individuals. He removes comfort so you can discover purpose. If you feel alone today, do not rush to fill the silence. Sit in it, because God may be shaping your heart into a place where others will one day find peace. Love given in lonely seasons never disappears. It only waits for the right place to grow.